les a semi-domestiqués. Les cerfs, dans le parc Michel Chartrand, vont approcher ouvertement les êtres humains. Ils vont manger de nos mains. Je ne dis pas ça pour encourager des gens à nourrir ces animaux parce qu'ils ont des besoins alimentaires très spécifiques. Mais néanmoins, ils ont perdu leur peur innée de nous. Alors voilà pourquoi on ne peut pas trahir la confiance que ces animaux nous donnent en les massacrant. Et surtout quand ce n'est pas nécessaire du tout. On n'est pas dans une question de santé ou sécurité publique. Vous savez tous, je suis une femme qui est pro-vaccination, par exemple, et pro-ivermectin, mais pas pour le COVID. Ce n'est pas un traitement pour le COVID, mais c'est un traitement préventif pour vos chats, vos chiens et vos chevreuils, pour qu'ils ne soient pas affligés de tiques et qu'ils ne transmettent pas ainsi la maladie de l'île, par exemple.
Mais je m'excuse. Dans votre argumentaire de ce matin, vous êtes revenu beaucoup sur l'absence de plan de la ville. Vous dites qu'ils vont les tuer, mais ils ne vont pas vraiment les contrôler parce qu'il va toujours en rester. Expliquez-nous les critiques que vous adressez à ce que la ville veut faire exactement.
D'accord. Moi, avant d'entreprendre la procédure, j'ai voulu regarder quel était le plan de gestion de la ville. Est-ce qu'il y avait vraiment un plan de gestion saine et équilibré qui veillait au bien-être des animaux qui vivent dans nos environnements urbains? Alors, je me serais attendu voir un traitement pour... J'aurais pensé voir un plan pour faire vermifuger les animaux, les offrir des soins vétérinaires, de bien les nourrir s'ils restent dans un parc restreint, par exemple. Et bien sûr, là, si dans un tel contexte, aussi de contraception, de stérilisation de cerfs, et s'il s'est avéré qu'ils avaient planifié de tuer peut-être les animaux les plus vieux ou malades ou affligés de maladies, certes, je ne me serais pas objecté. Toute personne qui aime les animaux sait qu'il y a un moment dans la vie d'un animal où parfois il faut absolument l'euthanasier pour l'épargner d'une souffrance. Mais là, de faire un massacre ainsi, sans penser au bien-être animalier, sans penser aux conséquences pour l'avenir, est-ce que ça va être un rituel annuel, la chasse des cerfs au milieu d'un parc urbain? Je ne vois pas qu'il s'agit d'une gestion saine et équilibrée d'une prétendue surpopulation de cerfs. Et c'est pour ça que depuis le début, j'ai proposé, et Sauvetage Animal Rescue a proposé, un plan de contraception pour les femelles, de stérilisation pour les mâles, parce qu'on sait pour les mâles c'est plus facile la petite vasectomie par exemple que la stérilisation d'une femelle dans le champ, et des traitements vétérinaires, vermifuger ces animaux et relocaliser toute surpopulation dans les districts dans l'ouest de Québec où, selon notre propre gouvernement provincial, nous sommes en manque d'une population adéquate de cervidés. Alors, si à Montréal et le sud de Montréal, il y en a trop, parce qu'ils adorent vivre à côté de nous, comme le raton laveur et les écureuils qui mangent nos vidanges, quoi, on n'a qu'à les déplacer pas très loin pour les offrir un environnement. Ils ne vont pas faire face à des prédateurs, parce qu'on parle en général dans le sud-ouest de Québec. Et là, ils pourraient mener une vie et on aurait une population... nous aurions ainsi une population de cervidés plus facile à gérer ici à Montréal et dans le sud de Montréal et dans l'ouest du Québec. Alors les solutions sont devant nos yeux, on n'a qu'à se rendre à l'évidence.
Et selon ce plan, il n'y aurait plus de cervidés dans le
Moi, c'est pire que ça, c'est pas qu'il n'y aurait plus de cervidés, il veut juste dire comme... Il veut juste en massacrer une centaine, bonne chance, parce qu'ils vont apprendre à nous éviter, bien entendu, à se cacher de nous. Et par après, il n'y a pas de plan. Alors, disons qu'il y a 125 chevreuils dans le parc Michel Chartrand, je l'ignore, mais disons, puis il tue 100, veut pas, il les tue, électrochoc, pas savoir comment, puis il reste 25. Mais les 25 sont affligés de tiques. Bien, vous allez avoir de tiques qui vont chercher un autre réservoir de mammifères pour manger, et ces tiques sont porteurs de la maladie de Lyme. Alors, où est un plan pour offrir des soins vétérinaires aux survivants? C'est pour ça que je dis, leur plan d'abattage est juste un geste, à mes yeux, de cruauté, et pas vraiment un plan équilibré, réfléchi, pour une bonne gestion d'une population d'animaux.
Merci beaucoup, ma père. Bonne chance dans ce dossier.
Right there, I'll do it in English. Just my
English time.
In English.
Quand vous dites l'ouest de l'île, là, c'est-tu l'ouest air là?
Non, pas l'ouest, west.
Vous habitez, là, vous?
Non, moi, je suis centre de l'île, près de Ville-Marie. Où il y a plein de ratons là-bas.
Parce qu'on pourra mettre quelques sur le plateau.
Pourquoi pas? Moi, je veux un exactement dans mon jardin. On a des jardins avoisinants.
Vous ne pouvez pas vous empêcher de faire une allusion à Walking Dead encore.
Comment est-ce que je pouvais m'empêcher Daryl? Qui n'adore pas Daryl avec son arbalète?
Chasse à l'arbalète.
The Walking Dead is a good legal argument in the courtroom.
So, Mrs. Goldwater, this fight has been going on for 2 years now already. What arguments are you bringing?
The argument that I'm bringing before the judge today is that there is no need and no urgency to kill the herd of deer who occupy the Parc Michel Chartrand in the middle of Longueuil, when we have so many other plans to propose to the court to save these beautiful animals. These deer in the Parc Michel Chartrand are semi-domesticated. They come up to people, they're always looking for food. Please don't feed the animals, because unless you know the specialized foods the deer can eat, you can harm their health. And we want to take care of these deer. We want to make sure they're treated for ticks. So for example, let's use ivermectin like we use for our cats and dogs in order to get rid of ticks and ensure there's no spread of Lyme disease. We want to offer contraceptives to the lady deer and sterilization to the male deer so they don't continue to populate or overpopulate the park. And if indeed there are too many deer, we have many municipalities west of the island of Montreal that are prepared to receive these deer, where they will not be subject to predation, where they will be safe in lush farmlands and forests.
You also had an issue with that the plan is to use crossbows and arrows.
I find that the plan, both plans that the city proposed are particularly cruel. The first plan was to capture the deer in these cages which collapse on top of the deer, sort of crushing the deer, and then you have to hold the deer down and put a gun to its head that has a bolt, a steel bolt that you shoot into the deer's brain. The deer is not stupid, he knows he's in danger, and will struggle mightily. It's a very cruel way to kill an animal. It's certainly not euthanasia. The current method that they're proposing now is with a crossbow. Yes, crossbows are certainly more powerful than regular bows and arrows, but you are more likely to end up with wounded deer who will suffer immeasurably before dying, or who may not die at all. There's also the danger that wounded deer will run out of the park and be hit by a car. In addition, I cannot, for the life of me, understand how the citizens of Longueuil would tolerate, in the middle of this huge park, people running around with crossbows. Because unless you're putting a police officer every 10 feet around the perimeter of this huge park, kids and old people and dogs are going to be in the park when this operation happens, and there's serious risk of injury.
You also said that even though the plans that have been put forth in the past of relocating, they said that those weren't viable, they weren't going to make deers healthy, that the risk of dying while in transport. They also say that, you know, hunting is common in Longueuil, and just across the park there is another area where hunting does happen. But you're saying that their plan is only short term, it doesn't go long term in the sense of what will happen after the cull is done.
Another problem with the cull, the way they propose it, let's call it what it is, it's a slaughter of deer. And I've done research on this particular topic, because there is a great deal of scientific literature, is deer, like humans, have a tremendous talent to reproduce in the face of adversity. So unless you plan to have a hunting operation every year, you're just going to have the lady deer who are capable of giving birth to 2 to 3 fawns a year, repopulating the park. So you really need to have a plan of population control that takes into consideration their ability to reproduce rapidly in any niche where they're able to survive. So killing them isn't a solution. And as for other places where people hunt, I will always respect and defer to people in other parts of Quebec, which is a vast province, yea, verily the size of a country, a country within a country, where there are peoples, including native peoples, who have a right to hunt and who need to hunt for their own survival. And I'm not calling into question their social contract with their animals. But certainly in the wilds of northern Quebec, deer know how to hide from predators, including us. The difference in an urban environment is that you end up semi-domesticating these animals. You can no longer call these deer wild deer. They will come right up to the human. Having lost their fear of us, it is in my mind immoral and improper then to kill them. We have to develop another ethic with respect to dealing with animals that share our space, because we're taking away all of their space. So unless we plan for a future, like in the film Soylent Green, because I always refer to cinema, unless we plan for a future where there are no more animals left, we have to develop another ability to coexist with these animals. And Quebec is the best jurisdiction in the world for that, in my opinion, because Quebec is known, the people of Quebec are known for their entre-gens, their interpersonal skills, and for their desire de vivre and laisser vivre. And those cultural values, I find, are consistent with the protection of animal rights.
I mean, spring's coming. I mean, as we argue this, more deer can populate that park. So, in that sense, when do we have a verdict on all this? When do we hope to get something out of it?
I'm convinced that the court will certainly, no matter how the court decides today, I think that the court will ensure that we proceed to put the file in the condition to proceed to trial by the new year. That's what I proposed to the judge, all right? And then we should be able to have a trial date reasonably rapidly. But that is up to the court to determine the priority they will give to the issue. My clients and I, so Sauvetage Animal Rescue and I, have offered all assistance to the city in the meantime to provide whatever help or support they need for the animals. We could start providing them veterinary care now, at least treat them for parasites in case they do carry those ticks. Make sure they're well fed. I have volunteers who are ready to feed these animals right away, and in fact are feeding them. So we're prepared to do all the things to help the city in the management of the animal population, but we draw the line in the sand that says, yes, you have a responsibility to take care of the environment, to make sure there's no nuisances, to make sure the environment is adequate in the city of Longueuil, but that line, there's a very clear line, but you can't kill the animals. It's not because you're a city, this is not 1952 where you just think you can pull out a pistol and shoot the raccoon next to you because you don't like him or he jumped into your garbage.
I have an unrelated question. My colleague was doing a story about someone who tied their dog outside a store. The dog was stolen, from what I understand. So now, my question is to you, is I know you have an affinity for dogs, and especially that. When it comes to someone who wants to go into her home, you walk your dog, I have a dog, she's never going to put outside on a floor.
Never.
So that's what I'm sort of asking. What should people do when they have a dog and they have to go into a store? What should they do in a sense of...
Either you can carry your dog in your arms or don't take your dog out when you're going to a store, because many places, I learned also the hard way about many dogs, have conditions that if you go into a grocery store, a bakery, a butcher, where they simply are not allowed to receive an animal because they can lose their permit to operate. Now more and more stores that are not otherwise serving food to humans, a boutique let's say, have become more tolerant of allowing animals in. Even here somewhere in the South Shore there's a boutique owner who has a surly bouvier de Flandre, right? And you can bring your dog in as long as your dog doesn't want her bouvier. But it depends if the shop owner is willing to. You're going to find more openness to allowing animals into shops in English language communities, because in English language communities we're at a different place when it comes to animal rights than French language communities. Don't ask me to explain why I'm not going there, but it is what it is. So if I'm in Ottawa or Toronto, for instance, I have less problem walking into a store, not serving food, a store with a dog. But then again, that too depends on the dog. Imagine if you have a massive German Shepherd, you don't want to scare someone either, and you don't want to scare your dog. I had a huge Labrador once, Sandrine, she was my wife, according to her, and she was scared of her own shadow, but people were afraid of her because she was still a big black Labrador.
So you think that there needs to be a change when it comes to that? More leniency to have more allowances to have dogs inside places like that?
I really think it's something for now because you have to leave to the discretion of shop owners, because a lot depends. What if a shop owner can't afford to have an insurance policy and your dog bites someone? I mean, God forbid that should happen, the owner could be sued. So I would be very hesitant to create a negative environment that would make shop owners not want to receive dogs. I think if there's enough public pressure, you know, if people make that request, shop owners will accommodate them. It's like what happened with the pandemic. More and more people want to work from home. Could you imagine 2019 someone saying, I don't want to come to work, I want to work from home? They'd be fired so fast, they wouldn't know what happened to them. But when there's enough social pressure, things change. I'm very leery about laws being adopted. That's like Bill 96. It's going to be a favorite example. Because I may love the French language and I may study it every day, but the day you tell me I have to speak it, I won't. So if you tell a shop owner you have to let in dogs, he won't. So you got to find the nicer way to do it. It also helps if more owners are careful about leashing their dogs. If you have a big dog, use that basket muzzle not to scare people. If people were more responsible owners, there would be less of these hesitancies and let them come into stores and other public places. But we'll talk more.